Welcome back to Round the Cauldron, where we talk theology, philosophy, and everyday life as a modern witch. If you like the show, please leave a review wherever you listen to help other witches find me. Don't forget, you can help support the show at patreon.com/roundthecauldron for as little as $1 a month and get patron-exclusive content. If you're ready to hop into the show, grab some coffee, pull up a seat, and join me round the cauldron. Today, I have something special. I have Shayde on from Flatline to Beatline, the host of a podcast that I have been on before. So,
let's do this.
Everybody, I have Shayde here with us today. Shayde is the host of the podcast Flatline to Beatline. Thank you so much for being here, Shayde. Would you like to introduce yourself, and say a little bit about your podcast, what you do, your practice, whatever you want to say about who you are and what you do.
Well, firstly, thanks for having me on. I'm actually really honored to be on. You kind of set it all up there. I am the host of Flatline to Beatline, and yeah, that's it.
I'm sure there's more to it than that.
No, well, I'm sure, I don't want to, answer all your questions just in my little intro there. So I've made that mistake before. So I'll just answer things as you ask the questions.
Okay. So do you want to give a little bit of information about your own personal background? I know you do enjoy your privacy, hence the reason YouTube videos or YouTube watchers, there is no video. But do you want to give any sort of information? Your personal practice, just who you are in general?
Well, I've been practicing various forms of what you would call witchcraft for over 30 years. I've practiced Haitian Budo, traditional witchcraft. I've tried the Wicca thing. I've did Bruja and Bado and things of this nature, just kind of an amalgamation of different things. And, I'm a white dude. So it's out there, tattooed up. But yeah, no, it's not much to it. I've lived all over the world. I can say that I was prior military and prior law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not so much about privacy. Yes, I'm a bushcrafter and prepper, but I don't appear on camera because I'm very shy, which is completely opposite of my podcast. But I feel that revealing myself, I guess, is an arrogant thing to do. And the goal of my podcast is to help other people. And if I can do that by remaining in the shadows, then I would rather do that, because in the end, it's about the guests that I have on. It's about the listeners. It's not about me.
That makes sense.
So I just plus it keeps the allure of who I am and people guessing who I am and what I look like. Very few people know who I look like, but hey, you know what? That's okay, because if it gets people listening, that's perfectly fine as well.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that at all. You say you have lived all around the world. I didn't know that. Do you want to divulge where you've been? Because I'm a very sheltered American person and I've never been out of my own country. So
Yeah,
I'm really interested.
that's an unfortunate thing. No, I lived in Germany when the Berlin Wall was still up. I've been to Russia. I've been to South Africa. I've been to Japan. I've been to Canada. I've been to a couple of other places I can't say, but it was just an amazing experience. And Olden once said, myself being a tribalist heathen, Olden says, one should not speak about world things if they have not traveled. And that's kind of a summary of a paraphrasing. But when one has been around the world, they tend to see things differently and they tend to have their own lives change. And, especially when you see poverty in different parts of the world, not just in one's own country, it completely shatters everything you thought was real and what wasn't. So especially coming back to one's original country. Whether they reside in a different country and return back to it from traveling, it's a culture shock. It's an absolute culture shock. So, yeah, I've been here and there. So, yeah, a
Well,
lot of
I mean,
fun.
that sounds like a lot of fun. There's so many places in the world that I want to go to that I just can't at this point in time. Hopefully in the future, but right now I will live vicariously through everybody else. Um,
Well, the United States has a lot of great things to it. It's a beautiful country. It's got amazing people, and it has so much to offer.
mhm,
Setting aside the politics and the government and everything, but I think pretty much everything in the world you can find within the United States, as far as landscapes.
mhm,
Sure, the Eiffel Tower is not in the United States, but there's places like Paris, Texas, right? So it has it,
that's
and
true.
Rome, Georgia, and things like this. But the United States is a melting pot compared to a lot of other countries that are
Right.
very secluded. So yeah, yeah, I don't want to get into a geography lesson, so I'll leave it all alone.
Okay. Um, so do you want to describe a little bit about your podcast and what it is that you do? What are your goals and the whole premise behind your podcast, Flatline to Beatline?
Wow, that's an intense question right there. Well, In I'll say this, in August of 2019, I had this feeling to create uh, a podcast. The reason being a small business owner, reading tarot, coining the phrase chainsaw style tarot. I was like, there's got to be other ways I can help other people and getting their name out there. And I'm not one for the spotlight, but something told me create a podcast. So I
Mhm,
did. And I couldn't think of a name, and being a devotee of Frigg, I asked for her help, and within a minute, minute and a half, Flatline to Beatline was created. And even though at that time I was like, dude, what? That sounds like a medical show. But then other people understood it. They understood what that meant.
mhm,
So I went from there. It was about interviewing people that get overlooked all the time. They don't, they may have a book they're trying to release, and nobody will give them a time of day to appear on their channel, their other podcasts, or whether it's a small Etsy shop. That's who I focus on. Yes, I have at times big names come on, but and that is for notoriety purposes, because every podcast, every channel wants notoriety. But I always ask them, what do you say to the ones who are just starting out?
mhm,
So that my podcast in itself is extremely unique because no one has this style of podcast, and of course did not know that until like 3 months in. So it was, and I just hit 6 months just earlier this month, and it's been a wild ride. And I'm hoping it'll get better. But yeah, I pretty much focus on those who are artists and authors and musicians and content creators who and business owners who are trying to get their name out there. I don't, and it doesn't have to be witchy or pagan related. They have to be a pagan, witch, Luciferian, Satanist, Druid, heathen, yes, but I don't care if they quilt. I don't care if they own a bicycle shop. I don't care. The overall premise of it all is to say, hey, you're one of us. I want my podcast to help your stuff out, help your business, help your channel, help this and that. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Well, I mean, being a guest on your podcast, I can say that you do an amazing job. And I think what you're doing is awesome. Now, would you say that it's about getting those people out there into the forefront, or is it also about building up our community as pagans or occult practitioners? Does that play a role in it too for you?
It's actually both.
Both.
You want to have it on an individual basis because in in retrospect, it's all a competition. If you're an author, you're a competition, but at the same time, paganism and witchcraft and I'll just say the left side, I'll just say that is on the rise, and the
Mhm.
matriarchy is on the rise. Tides are turning. And if I can just play a small part in creating a solid foundation so we do not fall apart, especially during this time, then that's my goal. It's about saying, hey, look, witches are people too.
Hmm.
Satanists are people too. We have jobs, we have businesses, we have books, we have dreams, and we have aspirations. And some of them try to get on big name podcasts and big name YouTube channels, and they don't succeed. And that's because you're aiming too high. Start out with the small ones and work their way up. Yourself being a podcaster, myself being a podcaster, we communicate with one another.
Hmm.
Podcasters kind of have their own language. So you may come to me and say, hey, I would love to have a certain guest on that you had. What do you think? Oh, yeah, totally. Here, do this person. And that's what it's all about. It's about networking. It's about camaraderie and just unity. And if we cannot unify as pagans and witches and Satanists and etc., then the whole wave is going to crash, and we're going to end up right back where we started from.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen. Um, I think the community is a really important aspect too of just paganism and occult people in general. Um, Now, I know you don't debate on your show. I want to ask you if you can give a little bit of information on why you chose not to do that.
Oh, I love debating.
I
I
know that's
really, oh, I really, this, but it's not about debating. It's about the guests that I have on and highlighting and spotlighting them. Yes, I ask the tough questions. I want to know, and I do my research, and that is the best form of respect you can show a guest.
Mhm.
Especially if they're an author and if they have been on other podcasts. That is absolutely crucial to go in and listen to all of them and ask the questions that nobody else asks. I've done that with Lilith Dorsey and Matt Arendt and Laura Perry and other people, asking them these questions that nobody else took the time to ask them. So it's not about debating. It's not about me. It's about them. And that's why I don't debate. Now, I mean, sure, I'd go on somebody else's podcast and debate the hell out of them on certain things, but again, my podcast is about my guests and my listeners. It's not about me. That's why
That's
I don't debate.
that's so awesome. Now we might have to have another episode, us two, where we get together and we have those kinds of conversations because I like to do that too.
I'm
Um,
all for that. My reputation is known. It is known to argue and debate, and you see that on Twitter. My Twitter followers see that, and it's not about, and it's about how one does it.
mhm.
I mean, if somebody's being a complete jerk, you're gonna beat them down with a hammer and stab them. And
Right,
if it's somebody who has a more eloquence to their debate style, you're more like, let's parray, let's go back and forth with
right.
it, and in a respectful manner. So especially the past holiday with St. Patrick's Day, Irish Heritage Day, you saw me debating on there with somebody. So it's sort of like
Hmm.
it's all about that, but it was out of respect, and we both learned from one another. Hopefully, I think
Right,
I learned
right.
something.
Like there's a difference between a debate and an argument.
I like to do both. All right, because I was born to argue. I was born to
You're one
debate.
of those.
Yes, I will argue even if I'm wrong. I will argue myself. I will debate myself. And actually that's a good thing, because
That's
if you
yeah,
can come into a debate or an argument and seeing both sides of it, arguing both sides, you're automatically going to win.
yeah.
And it's all the time not about winning. It's about you know learning, really. I
Right.
mean, that's what
Furthering your knowledge and exercising that brain muscle.
exactly. I'm dumb already. So I try to get smarter, especially when people use words that I've got to look up in a dictionary and going, wow, I didn't know that word, but I learned something. So that's a
Yeah.
good thing. Yes, absolutely.
Um, so you don't limit the guests on your show. You have had Wiccans, you have had me as an Irish pagan, and I mean you don't seem to I don't want to say discriminate because that's got a negative connotation to it, but you don't limit who you have on your show as of that. Is there anyone or anything that you would not allow on your show?
Yeah, white supremacists, focused heathens who are not all racist, but I'm not going to have one that's going to sit there and try to, incite violence,
Hmm.
even though sometimes I want to, but I can't. Uh, I don't want people that are trying to be divisive. Now, having a different point of view, sure,
Hmm.
but to sit there and say, hey, you have to be from this culture to practice this, or you have to be this race to do this, I'm not down with any of that because I just won't have those kind of people on, and I also won't have those kind of people who they're frauds,
Hmm.
and you can tell they're a fraud. I've already had that experience, and you're kind of like, damn it, why didn't I do my research? You know, so yeah, I won't. I just want genuine people on there and people who are really trying to make it through and get their name out there, make a living and stuff like that. And that I just won't have those kind of people that will not help the community as a whole. I don't give a damn about themselves. They can just go walk off a bridge. But if they're not going to help the pagan and witch community and all that, no, sorry, I don't want you on.
So you talk about frauds. What do you mean by frauds? You want to go into that a little more? Are they like just
Well, you have
completely
some,
fake
you have
or?
Yeah, you have some people. Okay, you take tarot readers. All right.
Mhm,
There's a lot of they don't have a clue of what they're talking about. They don't have
mhm,
exactly what I'm talking about. So it's a matter of if I have somebody who is a tarot reader on my show, my listeners know I've gotten a reading from them before. I want to test how much they know. And the readers that I have had on, I can't remember how many. They're genuine. They're gifted. They're talented. Right. So if I have somebody come on that wants to get their tarot business out there and they give me a reading and it is so bad, you could they would think that I don't know the Two of Cups means I don't know, killing and destroying. Sorry, you don't know your tarot cards. Goodbye. So I'm not trying to fill a slot. That's the thing. I'm not trying to fill slots. I
mhm,
am trying to bring on people to help them and to have my listeners go, man, you know what? I didn't even know this person existed. And they go and buy their products or they buy their books or they watch their YouTube channels.
mhm. I
That
have experienced that myself listening to different episodes of your show. Like, oh, this person sounds really cool. Let me go subscribe to their YouTube channel and watch their videos.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Then my goal is completed with that. So, yeah, I just won't have ignoramuses on because even though I would love to debate them, no, it's not about that. It's a business podcast with an edge. That's
Mhm,
essentially what it is. And whether it's a blog or if it's a YouTube channel, even though that's not a business, in a way, in my mind, it is because you're a content creator.
right.
So, especially if you get patrons and stuff like that, then it essentially is a business. So, yeah, exactly. And I won't have anybody who's not outside the pagan, witch, Luciferian, Satanist
Right.
realm, heathen, druid. I won't have a Christian. I'm not going to have, you know, Muslims or Jews or Hindus, or I'm not going to have because that's not what it's about. And
Right. And
that
they already have bigger platforms available to them.
exactly. So my podcast is not only unique, it's extremely niche.
Mhm.
So it's very, very pinpoint. So yeah, I think
Cool.
that answered it.
I think so. Um, Out of all of the guests that you have had, is there anyone that you is like your dream guest, the person that you would love to have on your show the most?
Well, not really a dream guest because there's a lot of people I would want to have on my show. Uh, but there is one person I would really love to have on the show, but this person is extremely well known, who is very, very busy, and that is Savannah from the Black Witch Coven. Um, she is someone I have watched her videos for many years. I have a lot of respect and admiration for her, especially what she does. It is a woman I would never want to cross because I just wouldn't want to do it.
Mhm.
But that is one person I would love to have on the show. But I am very hesitant to ask her. So because she is very, very busy, and that would definitely be one person I would have on. The other person that I've always wanted to have on since the beginning is actually coming on next week,
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
that is Venus Satanis to have on because I'm starting to spotlight more of the left hand past Satanist Luciferian side that everybody they're the ones building a lot of bridges,
Mhm.
and it's the other people that are completely destroying the bridges. So
Right.
they need to be highlighted as well. So Venus Satanis wrote the book on the spiritual Satanist prayer book. She has her own shop, things like that. So having her on was, it's going to be awesome. And in fact, last week's episode with Eric Ward Weaver Shervin, that he's an indirect mentor of mine. So as far as heathenry, so it was an honor to have him on. And he's kind of like not extremely well known, but somewhat well known. So he kind of fell within that range.
Mhm.
And hopefully, people who are interested in heathenry, even just learning it, would go to his channel and do that. So, yeah, there's a few others, but they're big names. And I try to only have maybe once a month big names on,
Mhm.
but I focus on the people who have 10 subscribers, on their YouTube channel and things like that. So, yeah.
That's interesting to me because I have never heard of either of those people. So
Well, did
when
you
those
listen to last
happen,
week's episode?
no, honestly.
No, no.
I
Wow.
haven't had a chance. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad. I've been so busy. I do go back and I listen to them. I just don't always listen to them in order or when they first come out.
Yeah, Savannah from Black Witch Coven is like I said, very, very well known. I've known people that have bought her products. I mean, she is very, very educated. She's very,
Mhm.
very talented. She's an amazing witch, an amazing person. So yeah, checking her channel out, you would learn a lot about demonology, you know, Luciferianism. You talk about dark magic, whatever, cursing, hexing, things like that, and other things as well. And it is such a great channel that woman should be having at least 10 million followers by now. But and you know what? There is one other person I just now thought that I would want to have on that I don't think has ever been on a podcast, and that is Freya Norling. She has
Oh my gosh, I would listen to that so hard.
I would love to have her on my show so bad. I love her videos. It is just truly fantastic. She is. But I don't know. I'm very hesitant to ask them. But I'm sure. Hopefully this year I hopefully will. I've stopped booking because I'm booked all the way until May. So in April I'm gonna start booking for May and June, and then more than likely by literally by the end of the first by probably by the end of April I'll have May and June already booked. So I don't want to put too much out there, way too far out, because I've learned my lesson
Right.
about doing that. So yeah.
No, I think you should totally ask her because I think that would be an amazing opportunity for you for one, but for your listeners too because she does have a lot of subscribers, but I feel like she still might not be well known and I actually did sort of like a video response to one of her videos and it's one of my most popular ones because people search for her name.
Oh no,
And she's
absolutely. I mean, she is such an amazing person, and I'm just yeah, she should be getting a lot. She's got a lot of patrons. I can give her that, and I remember watching her like 2 years ago when nobody really knew who she was, and
mhm.
three years ago. So it's like wow, and now look where she's come. So I always try to retweet her stuff, her videos, things like that, to get her name out there. And I'm kind of like saying, "Hey, I'm doing this all. Can I interview you, please?" But
Right? It's
but
like a way of saying, "Hey, I'm here," without saying like, "Hey,"
well,
directly.
without kicking the door in.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm hoping I would love to have both of them on this year. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to build up the fortitude to ask one day.
You can
So
do it.
I
I
can do
believe in you.
this. Indeed.
So do you have a favorite person that you've interviewed so far? And you don't have to say me just because you're talking to me right now.
No, it's not. It's not you. No. I'm joking.
Harsh.
No. Honestly, I don't have. I guess I would say Ravenwood because
Mhm,
I've known her for so many years, and she is like a blood sister to me.
mhm,
That I guess would say would be my favorite, and I always do promos for her products and everything else like that. But yeah, she would be my favorite. Plus, I want to say she's my favorite because she'll kick my ass if I don't. I'll get a message going, bro, what's up, man? Why didn't you say so? Um, yeah. But my favorite person would be my fiance. So and she hasn't been on my show, so you know. But she's behind the scenes and supporting me and giving me ideas and things like that. So,
mhm.
uh, yeah,
That's so awesome.
yeah.
Harsh though.
Well,
Harsh.
hey, you were my first guest for 2020. All right, so get
That
off your
counts for
pet,
something.
yeah, get off your pedestal there for a second. Let's get into reality. No, no, it was a fun interview with you. I remember you were nervous. Well,
I was nervous.
you were scared, and I was like, oh boy, I get to de-virginize another one. So I've gotten to do that. So it's actually an honor, for people to take a chance in coming on my show, regardless if
Mhm,
they're popular or not. To me, that that's just awesome, and I'm humbled by every person that comes on, and I hope that just keeps going. That one day, you asked earlier what my goal was for the podcast, and
mhm,
that is creating a generational legacy. For so when I get to an age where I can't do it anymore, or
mhm.
people just don't want to listen to me anymore, when my daughters get older, they will take the helm, and then their kids will take it, and their kids will take it, and also being uh, a vital resource for the pagan and witch community, being that directory, being that Rolodex, if you will, for the older generation like me, that still uses Rolodex.
Hey, I
Uh,
know what a Rolodex is.
Yes, and well, not on a computer, but no, I mean the old-fashioned ones. No, is to be that resource for people to go and say, "Hey, I want to go on there to get my name out there," or if it wasn't for coming onto this podcast, I would have never made it big.
Mhm.
And also for listeners to discover new people, and just being that all-in-one ultimate resource that other people can go to, and hopefully, you know both sides achieve what they want, whatever that may be.
So you talk about your daughters, you have children. Is on the more personal side, I guess, is your path and your practice is something that you share with them? Um, so do you teach them about your particular practice, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like
Well,
how
you're
Christians raise their kids in the Christian faith.
well, you being a mother yourself, my kids are only 4 and 3, and so they're not really understanding
Mhm,
anything. They see me doing spell crafting, and I do read them Norse stories and things like that. They're more worried about watching YouTube videos and stupid stuff like that. That just
I know the feeling.
it's just weird, and Paw Patrol and everything else like that. But I'm trying. I'm going to raise them as heathens, as witches, as volvas, as
Mhm,
say that are practitioners. Uh, and I hope when they get older, I hope at minimum they will remain being a witch. If they don't want to remain a heathen, that's fine. But that's how I'm raising them. Am I forcing it on them? No. I'm allowing them to see me do it, see me study, see me learn.
mhm.
Uh, for instance, a lot of the YouTube videos that they watch happen to be in Russian. And my 4-year-old, just the other day, I gave her something and she says, "Spasiba," which is thank you in Russian. I'm like, oh, that is totally awesome. Right.
Heck
So,
yeah.
yeah, they're learning. So once they get to an age where I can start teaching them how to prep and bushcraft, which, maybe next year, the sooner the
It's
better.
never too early.
Exactly. So I'm allowing them through what do you call it? Through sight, watching me do it, they'll
Hmm.
get interested. So they like playing with the incense stick, and they see a flame, and they want to play with it, and they see the herbs and apothecary and stuff like that. And I think just by allowing them to see that, it's going to ingrain in their memory,
Hmm.
and they'll find that as a part of who they are when they get older. Even if they don't practice, I'll be disappointed. But if they don't, they will naturally have a draw towards the craft and
Hmm.
heathenry and say know that that's home. So I'm not forcing them. I'm semi forcing them. No, I don't know how somebody could put it, but yeah.
No, no, I know what you're trying to say because my daughter, she'll be 7 soon, on the 24th, and
Oh, the Aries new moon.
yeah.
That is gonna be insane. That's a very positive thing. It's a positive thing. The stuff coming in, with all the conjunctions and everything else like that it is gonna be a very good thing. It's about soul searching and
I hope so.
healing. It is. It's a very positive thing. So hey, my daughter, my oldest is at the end of February. My youngest is in March. Your daughter's birthday is in March. In fact, it's exactly 17 days later. So that's kind of weird. That's
But with her, my boyfriend and I, we have had the discussion of what are we going to do as far as religion and faith, because he is he's not an atheist. He's more of an agnostic person. He doesn't practice any sort of beliefs. He's just sort of like, whatever, it is what it is. So we had to have that discussion because I am I grew up in a Christian household, and I had to go to church and I had to do these things. And that's not something that I wanted for my own kid. So I understand what you mean as far as they see you practice it, because it's not something that I hide, but it's also not something that I have actively taught, I guess. Like I answer questions whenever she asks questions, or we do little activities. Like for the spring equinox, um, we went outside. It was actually nice enough outside here in Central Oregon the other day to do this. But I gave her little phone that she has to play with, and I told her to go take pictures of the things that remind you of springtime. So, I mean, it's not like I'm not actively teaching her. So, I just wanted to get your perspective on that too. And it's really interesting because I find that a lot of pagans or people that are not of Abrahamic faith, they have that sort of same mindset. So I'm raising her essentially with the things that I believe, because I'll tell her about the teas that I make or the candles and the incense, but it's part of my everyday life. So it essentially becomes a part of her everyday life.
no, exactly. I wouldn't want to stand above my daughters and go, "You will learn now."
Right.
We're not Christians, and other ones. So as far as your boyfriend, as far as agnosticism, I used to be a very hardline atheist. There's no such thing as an agnostic, right? You're either an atheist or you're not. All right, you can sit on a fence for a very short period of time, but eventually you're going to have to make up your own mind. You could be agnostics towards a certain thing, it may be a certain decision or whatever it may be, but
Mhm.
when it comes to religion, faith, whatever, no, you're either an atheist or you're not. It's that simple.
Well, I think he gets the label of agnostic because he's not denying that there's a possibility. He just doesn't know what that would be. And whenever we have taken long road trips and we end up driving for hours and hours and hours, and it always happens at nighttime when it's dark and we're just talking, and that's when we have like those deep existential conversations. And he's always told me, like, if he were to actively believe in something, it would be some form of paganism, but he's just not that kind of person, and he just sort of lets us do whatever we want. So I
Well,
just
you
let him
you
do his
you
own
could be
thing.
you
And
could be well, you can be an atheist, which you can't be an atheist pagan, really.
right,
Um,
right.
but everybody goes to paganism because inherently in their DNA, that's where they were kind of sort of drawn to the most.
Mhm.
So I mean, even with my fiance, the second politics comes up, she just walks out the room because she tries to bring up a. If she asks a question, which she hardly ever does, then she knows it's going to be a long dissertation, and so I don't, she don't bring up politics to me or anything like that.
Yeah,
I end up.
politics don't get discussed in my house.
Oh, see, I love doing it because it's so much fun.
It makes my blood pressure rise. So we just don't do it. Because in my house, it's me and my boyfriend and my daughter and my parents. And my mom is very reserved in the fact that she, in my entire life, in every presidential election, I have never known who she's voted for because she's like, it's nobody's business. And so she's reserved. I have no idea about her political preference. My father, on the other hand, he and I are at two, like the opposite ends, the most opposite you could get. And he's the kind of person who pushes buttons just to push buttons. And I don't like that. So we don't talk about it.
Oh, so he's a conservative Republican. I can
Very
already.
much so.
Well, see, I'm a communist.
See.
I'm a Marxist Leninist Maoist third worldist since 1995.
Mhm.
All right, so I'm older than you are. My parents are older than your parents, so I can understand not voting or not mentioning who one votes for. But
Mhm.
don't trust me. It gets pretty crazy, but yeah, so much fun.
So,
Well,
how does that affect your beliefs then?
it doesn't.
It doesn't affect your beliefs?
No.
That's
As far as
interesting.
what my paganism, my heathenry, witchcraft
Yeah.
stuff like that, how does politics? It doesn't. Politics is completely separate.
See, now, because that's interesting to me because my paganism plays a role in my politics, but not necessarily the other way around. Because I know we've talked about it before with my environmentalism and how I believe that everybody who can get involved should be involved in politics and, fighting for what you believe in. So there's no.
Well, I don't see. I mean, environmentalism is not politics; it's activism. All right. So yes, you can get political bills and everything else. Try
Mhm.
try to get some changes for the climate change. We're all going to freaking burn up soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really relate that to politics so much, but rather personal activism. Um, but
But see, I see it as like I can do the personal activism at home. I can recycle and I can do, you know, all of that other stuff. But I see it in a political light where I guess it would be activism, but I see it as like a political activism because I would be, sharing the information and saying, this senator or this governor or this, whoever, contact your representatives. We need to change this because of this.
yeah, but it's more like natural activism. It's about earthly activism.
Mhm.
Politicians, they're not going to change anything. All right, that's just a fact because when it comes down to it, it's all about the money. It's all
That's true.
about the bureaucrats. It's all about that's what it's all about. So, taking personal responsibility for your environmentalism, your politics, whatever. Because I know Republican witches, I know Democrat witches, I know communist witches, I
Mhm.
know, I across the board. I know people who say they're apolitical. That means essentially they just don't want to tell you what they are. And some people say who they hate politics. That just means they don't want to talk about it, and they more than likely don't know a whole lot about it.
Mhm.
So, um, yeah.
So, is there anything else that you would like to share with those watching on YouTube and my podcast listeners?
Well, I mean, I'm well. By the time this comes out, it's already happened. So, I'm actually going to be live on Thorn Rose, which is a YouTube channel, Kendra Ravenmoon,
Hmm.
talking about left hand path stuff, Satanism, stuff like that. And then the next day, uh, I'll be on the Witch's Cauldron, doing a live chat as well. So that's going to be interesting. But some, I guess, exclusive stuff. I would say that I only mentioned it to my patrons yesterday. That myself and Nathara from the Educated Witch, also at Crow Song Lodge, we are going to be doing a bi-weekly podcast for our patrons only, where we will discuss witchy stuff, paganism, left hand path stuff,
Mhm.
politics, current events, environmentalism, everything. And it's going to be about 30 to 45 minutes. But we're going to start that April 3rd and just do the first and third Friday of every month. We're going to release the first one publicly to see what people think about it.
Mhm.
We are diametrically opposed on several issues, so it definitely will be interesting. But yeah, right now we're strictly going to do it for our patrons.
Mhm.
But if people really, really like the podcast or like that, well, our project, I guess you could say, then maybe we'll think about creating a separate podcast about it all. So it'd be kind of like a kitchen table discussion type of thing. I mean, we don't even have a damn name for it. So it's just coming together and just giving it to our patrons, just to, her patrons and my patrons. So if people start becoming our patrons, then it's beneficiary for the both of us. And
Mhm.
then, once in a while, have a guest on, like yourself, maybe, and have a kind of like a three-way discussion about, I don't want to say threesome because I just but kind of like kitchen table topics,
Mhm.
talking about politics and going to that edge that nobody wants to talk about. They're afraid, they're shy away from it, and we're not going to do that
Right.
at all. So yeah, that's some exclusive stuff. And then I'm just waiting for April to come around, and I have some great guests coming on that are kind of very unknown. And of course, the educated witch herself, Nathar, she's going to be on my show at the very end of April. So it's all interesting. Everybody's wanting to do projects with me, and I feel so special. Honestly, I do. I feel honored. Actually, I do. I really feel honored because if it can help the people out, then great. I'm truly happy about that, and that's why I did a mid roll for you, for your podcast, because I want to get people
I appreciate it.
over your way and to get my name out there. I got to
Mhm.
have some kind of piece of it in a way. So I mean that's the whole thing. And if coming on your show, you want to talk about things, hell, come on, we can go back and forth on things. Be my guest. So it's yeah. Um, Excited.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot planned for the next coming months.
Uh,
So you mentioned Patreon. You have a Patreon. Do you want to share any other links? I know you also read tarot. Um, Anywhere that my listeners can find you online?
Wait, you have listeners? No, I'm just joking. I'm teasing. No, no. Most of my tarot readings they're done through Twitter, so people can
Okay.
easily find me on Twitter, and that's how I do it. And I do have a Ko-fi page, so if somebody doesn't want to be a patron, where it's a monthly thing, they can just donate. Ko-fi, do it that way. But how I have my patrons set up is $3, $5, and $7. That's it,
Okay.
right? And I have exclusive stuff for each one. So I I have them as clans: the Raven clan, the Wolf clan, and the Dragon clan, and that's how I kind of put it out there. All are important, and a lot of them share a lot of the same perks that I do. Of course, that you can just look up Flatline and Beatline. It's somewhere. You'll give them the link or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have all the links in the description and in the show notes.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm found, on Twitter and stuff like that. So, and as far as my tarot, I'm cheaper than anybody else. I only do it for $10. That's it. And it's very, very in depth. And I use tarot cards and oracle cards, five oracle decks, and hand carved runes and astro die in every single reading. And I do that for the working class person. Sure, I could charge 40, $50, but I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Why? I can't, me personally, I cannot do that. Because even if somebody doesn't believe in tarot, would you rather be out 40, $50 or 10? Which one do you want? Right.
Exactly.
So part of my patron thing is at the $5 level, and of course the $7 level, they get a free monthly tarot reading.
That's so
Like
cool.
literally, you're getting 50% off right there.
Right.
So, and of course, they get all the show notes a week before I even do the show, and they get my schedule like a week before it's released because I try to release it monthly.
Hmm.
So I try to take care of my patrons because they're taking care of me, and that's what it's all about. And so, yeah, that's why I do it. So I just I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I'm just here. I just hope people will check out the show. That's my biggest thing. With everything going on now as around the world, the numbers are low. Even,
Hmm.
for everybody's thing, it's
Yeah.
low. And you would think you're locked up inside the house. You would think podcasting and no, people worried about if they're going to survive or not, if they're going to have food to eat. And hey,
Right.
much respect to that. That's why I haven't been asking people if they want tarot readings or anything like that, because there's far more important things to do,
Yeah.
uh, stuff like that. But some people, they like it. I've done over 300 now since I started in June of last year,
That's a
and
lot.
I've never had anyone disappointed, and I'm shocked. So I'm happy. It's just chainsaw style, man. I'm going to cut through the BS and I'm going to tell it like it is. And if it hurts your feelings, I don't care.
We appreciate the honesty though. Like
Yes, that's just
that's
how
a
it
big
is.
thing with me.
That's what it's all about, So it's exciting. So I'm hoping with everything coming up, especially the new moon, it's and Ostara already now here, and it's just going to be an awesome year. I think 2020, even though we're facing so much devastation, I really believe for the human race as a whole, it's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah,
And
I think there's something at work, something bigger. All this week and several days last week, I pull a tarot card for myself every day. Just good practice, just to keep it going, right? No matter how many times I shuffled and split the deck, every single time I pulled a card, it was the Ace of Pentacles. Every single time. And I'm just like, what's going
that
on? Like, what am I missing here?
No, that's awesome because I was thinking because right the poll to unveil myself is at 50-50.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I have somebody gave me a rebel unicorn deck. And so I just asked, it's not your typical thing.
Yeah.
And I pulled it, and the card that literally flew out of my hand that says, whatever you're thinking about doing, don't do it. Flip the
Oh
card
my God.
over. Yeah, and it flipped the card over and it says, now is not the fucking time.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
exactly what it said. I'm like, well, you know what? There you go. No,
There
it's
you
not
go.
now. So yeah, I mean, so much fun. Uh, you know,
Well, thank you for coming onto my show here at Round the Cauldron. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on and talk about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I hope you had fun. And I hope I wasn't a terrible interviewer.
oh, absolutely not. I mean, you need some more practice. It's okay. We all do because I
Yeah.
do it as well. So that's why I didn't want to answer all your questions in my first intro type of thing because then you're like, damn, now I've got nothing else.
Right. Then I end up with a 5-minute interview.
Yeah, hey, you know what? That's okay. I'm just happy if I got 30 seconds. So I'm always honored.
I hope you all enjoyed that interview with Nightshade from Flatline to Beatline. All of his links will be in the description and in the show notes below. Make sure that you go check out his podcast and give him some love over there. And also check out any of his guests that pique your interest. I will leave all of his links for the podcast below. I believe you can find it on any podcast platform. And I will also leave the link to his Twitter in the description and in the show notes. Until next time, everyone. Bye for now.